I started a podcast, and since I have been doing that and barely ever posting, I found that a lot of other podcasts and how people do it just annoys me, which is part of why I don't post that much. When I listen to a podcast, I expect a deep dive, a long discussion, meeting an interesting person through the lens of the host. What I don't expect is watered down science and simple answers to complicated questions. And that is precisely what pisses me off about a lot of podcasts nowadays. So I want to show you what I mean by the example of Mel Robbins. No hate to Mel Robbins. She seems like a great, vibrant personality, I guess. But there are just some things I wish there was less of on the internet. Oh, and before everyone goes like, oh, who are you? You have like 5,000 subscribers. Who are you to criticize this massive creator? Anybody can criticize any other body, okay? Shut the fuck up. I came across her content many years ago when looking for a solution on how to not press the snooze button or, I don't know, get a better morning routine of some sort, I think. I made a satire video about morning routine at the time, and that was it. But I found this TED Talk of her talking about counting 1, 2, 3, and then just getting out of bed. And that seems to be it with Mel Robbins for a lot of things, a lot of solutions for more or less deep problems in life. I don't know why that is. Sometimes it feels like maybe these problems are more shallow for some people than they are for others, which is a measure of pathology, as in, some people have anxiety. They do not have an anxiety disorder. Having anxiety is pretty normal. It's a normal part of being an adult. Pathologizing everything is not. Okay? We need to stop doing that. That's another thing I don't want more of on the internet. So I came across this 1, 2, 3, and then you get out of bed and you just get going and and then your ADHD problems are solved, I guess. I don't know. Of course, she was late diagnosed with that, but has none of the severe symptoms, of course, like every other female nowadays claiming they have ADHD. But I guess they just get the quirky, cool, and cute version of that. And then there are just odd outliers like me who have all these boyish, false, and wrong symptoms. Or maybe we're just not that loud. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about this topic anymore on my channel. I don't like it. And people who define themselves over their diagnoses need to get help for something else but that diagnosis. It's just a pattern that I recognize, and I'm pretty good at pattern recognition. When I see people and they accumulate a bunch of, let's call it, life tags, or should we say red flags, as in, oh, I struggle with this, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have ADHD, I'm autistic, I'm also artistic, I'm an author, I'm a writer, I have trauma. Everything is trauma nowadays, isn't it? It's trauma if your mom said something mean to you when you were 12. Well, try Russian ballet school then, I guess. Or don't, because you will not make it out alive. Oh, it's so mean and rude to compare one's trauma to another one's trauma. Is it though? I like to think of it as in reminding yourself of, you know what? There are people out there who have it worse and do better. That to me is an inspiration and not a red flag and not trauma comparison. And it's also not about diminishing yourself or your bad experiences in life. I just don't like to call everything that I have gone through in my life trauma. I just call it a bad experience or misfortune or shit. And that's enough for me. I don't get along with this whole rhetoric of making everything dramatic these days. If you can't understand that, then maybe just don't watch this video. It won't get better for you. So I came across Mel Robbins a while ago, and I find myself now watching or listening to more podcasts because I don't want to spend time on YouTube that much. I find it not a good investment of my life. But podcasts are something that I can listen to on the go, same as listenable content, just like this. I try to make listenable content because I don't want to keep people from living their lives. I don't want people to procrastinate with my videos. And that is basically also how I came across podcasts like the famous Huberman Lab Or Mr. Ballin, of course. Who doesn't listen to Mr. Ballin? And in my brain, it's just so wrong. I always want to say Mr. B. Allen. It's Mr. B. Allen, dude. Anyway, so Mel's podcast popped up to me one day because even Antenna Pod has suggestions and wants to lure you into their, I don't know, prime shows, I guess. So I started listening to that. And with the first episode that I listened to, I was already like, dude, this can't be it. But I don't have time to scroll and I just want to listen to something. Like, this bike ride is boring. So I scroll to the podcast. Fucking shit, the sun is coming out. The sun is on my sleeve. Here we go. Proof that I listened to it. This episode is called How to Achieve Any Goal You Have in 6 Simple Steps. It's actually a good episode. And I remember why I initially liked Mel Robbins or her content back in the day, which was like 2016 or 2018 or something. There wasn't so much on YouTube that was motivating and talking about how to make projects work, how to be a creator, that kind of thing. YouTube was just so much smaller than today. And so TED Talks were really popular. And podcasts at this point were more like a niche thing. If you had a podcast, you were a nerd. So anyway, while riding my bike, I came across this episode. It's called How to Stop Caring What People Think of You. Well, who doesn't want that? And that's exactly Mel's narrative, as in everybody cares about everybody else, right? And that is a problem. Or it's not. She actually says that it means you're not a total piece of shit and you're compassionate and you care about others. But if it's keeping you from being you and doing what you want, then that's bad. Now, her solution to that is something she calls the let them theory. Boy, how I love it when people call something a theory. A theory is the highest form of a scientific concept. I fucking hate it when people throw that term around. Stop appropriating our shit and make up your own words. Pretty please? Actually, no pretty please. Just stop doing that. Not everything is a theory. Not every thought that came into your mind and that you named is a theory, okay? Loop quantum gravity is a theory, bitch. Same goes for do your research, by the way. I have to read this off my screen because I can't remember it, but this is exactly what I want to say. You don't do any research. You do reading. That's about it. You do not work in a lab, you are not a scientist, you don't have a scientific degree, and you don't apply scientific methods. Reading. You're not a researcher, you're a reader. You're a person interested in something. And the way that you self-proclaimedly read up on shit does not show the level of competency or depth to be called research. Shut the fuck up. Okay, now that we have gotten this over with, and all the dorks who just love to fight over words are gone. I'm also a dork who likes to fight over words. And I think that there should be a different kind of word for this. Just like people shouldn't call their online courses academy. Academy is literally an academic term. Don't appropriate that. And I'm also fine with people calling it doing research if they really go down a rabbit hole, a deep dive, a very investigative way of finding out something. But Googling one time isn't research. It's just so far away from things that scientists actually do that it sounds odd. You know, if you call a research center, you don't think of a bunch of people Googling. Actually, it's a bunch of people Googling. Anyway, maybe I'm overreacting a little bit because there is not really a good translation. In German, we would say Recherche, which is just reading up on stuff and investigating. And Forschung, research, is something more in depth. Forschung, the word. And Forscher, scientist. Those are academic terms. Maybe I'm just pissed about this because I grew up with this language and to me that's distinct from the other. But anyway, let's get going with Mel Robbins, okay? I use the term too, by the way, because of lack of a better word. But I'm trying not to. So she comes up with that theory of just letting people talk and moving on with your life. And I want to show you, not Sheldon Cooper. So this is my Brave browser. I get weird suggestions here. Like the first one over here is why Mac OS is better than Windows. They're both shit. So when I type in Mel Robbins, literally the second entry is let them theory. Let's see what comes up. Gotta love her chronically over-exaggerated expression on her face. Stop caring what people think of you.
Every single human being struggles with this. We find ourselves in these situations in life where you're like, oh my gosh, why am I so concerned about what other people think about me?
That is why I watched the whole episode, because that actually spoke to me. I was like, you know what? I go to the rink, there are all these psycho figure skating moms, and it annoys me that they look at me like this when I say shit out loud. Shit, it's a normal word, scheiße in German. If you say scheiße, every fucking parent just turns around being like, oh my god, oh, the unspeakable. Literally, I say that 5 times at least every day. That's the most normal word. It's also the most versatile word in the whole English language, I think. At least according to Urban Dictionary. Dude. People who don't say shit have no control over their life. People who say shit all too much also probably don't. But a healthy amount of actually saying shit when you feel like shit, that's nothing to be criticized. So, my example with the rink moms, I don't care about their fucking opinion. But I care about them talking behind my back or just, I don't know, making things annoying for me. I don't like being looked at like this. Oh, look at this white trash. From somebody with literally no achievements in life other than, well, I don't say shit all the time. Well, good for you. That's literally it. I'm not exaggerating at this point. I think there are a lot of people who pride themselves in having some sort of what they think is sophisticated language, when linguistically it actually isn't, and all they do is avoid swear words. I like swearing, and I won't tell my kid to not swear when she feels miserable. She's allowed to say shit whenever she wants. And if some adult is looking at her a weird way, then that's their problem. I'm also teaching her about nuance. I don't want her to use shit to describe every bad feeling, of course. I don't want her to say shit whenever something is just mildly annoying. And I tell her that. But people judge you based on like 30 seconds that they spend with you in a locker room, and then they think they know everything about you, which is annoying. Why is it annoying? Because it has real life consequences if a bunch of people think less of you because you have a different opinion on something very, very basic. It's just in sports, it can lead to annoying situations when people don't like you. And for me, that's a conflict, because first and foremost, I really don't want anybody to like me for how I talk. If you can like me because I don't know, we have similar hobbies and similar opinions on things and similar tastes in music, you know, that is something I would like another person for. Their personality mixed with a bunch of interesting hobbies that we share, and we can talk about that. That's cool, I like that. I like to spend time with a person like that. I don't like somebody more because they are polite or not. It really depends on the situation. Someone who's always nasty and just shitting on others, of course, that person is not likable. But someone just keeping form doesn't make them more interesting or more likable for me personally. I just don't care about this stuff. And I also value honesty much more than I value politeness. Of course, it's like high road if somebody is both polite and cool and straightforward. Like, that's the ultimate goal, that's my goal too. But it's my goal for me, not to impress others. Still, it annoys me when people talk behind my back, and if people have a certain influence on others, that can have real life consequences. That's not a good thing. For instance, in a school setting, if you're a student and other students talk behind your back, make fun of you or something, this whole, oh, just let them, what does it matter if they are bullying and harassing you and then they have bad opinions of you, what does it matter? Just let them. Don't let that keep you from doing it's literally keeping you from doing what you want. And if it accumulates, it can lead to depression, anxiety, stress. That's normal. That's why people struggle with that. And not because they just haven't made the mindset shift yet to ignore all idiots in life. Yeah, that's probably the road to clarity and wisdom. Great. Let me know if you've met the 5 people who achieved this enlightenment, okay? They're probably Buddhists. Anyway, one interesting narrative of Mel Robbins in her podcast was that you are not able to control the thoughts of others. And that is true. Die Gedanken sind frei, whatever you think is yours. But it's also not. You can influence people, and that is exactly what Mel does. That is exactly what any influencer does if they're good at their job. She says,
you will never, ever, ever be able to control or guarantee what another person thinks about you.
Some psycho manipulator might disagree.
Ever. And so I not only got in Chrissy's face about this because I want her to have a breakthrough, but I need to get into your face about this.
I want to get in Kim Jong-un's face about this.
Because you need a breakthrough about this. Right now, you are holding yourself back because you're worried about what your friends from college are thinking, or you're worried about what your parents are going to be thinking, or you're worried about, what your boss is going to think, or this, or that, or the other thing. And more importantly, it's not even that worrying about it is the problem. It's the fact that you then aim it back at yourself. Like, I think it's fine to care what other people think. It's a sign that you're a good person. That's not the problem. The problem is how you hold yourself back, how you silence your opinion.
So I think that this is a very valid point, right? If your doubts and your feelings of guilt keep you back, that's a bad thing universally. But on the other hand, feelings of guilt are very healthy and normal, just like my messy hair is. Feelings of guilt are healthy and normal indicators of you having been doing something wrong. Shoving away feelings of guilt is immature and not the way to deal with that. I've actually read a whole book just on feelings of guilt and I found it very interesting. The title roughly translates to It's Your Fault. And it is about taking accountability, and if you feel guilty about something, to explore that and find out what you're actually guilty of instead of saying, oh no, I feel guilty, that's bad. Freud says that is bad and I don't need to deal with that. That is just something other people and my mother impose on me. No. Most of the time, feelings of guilt are actually accurate indicators, just like pain, that show you something is wrong. If you feel pain, that is a sign of a potential or actual tissue damage. Okay? You need to feel pain in order to be able to eliminate a problem in your body. The same is with guilt. If you feel guilt, it's an indicator that there might be a problem. You need to explore that and find out what the issue is and if it's actually your fault. And if it's your fault, then that gives you a lot of power to fix it. That's a good thing. I kind of forgot what I wanted to criticize Mel for. I'm not saying that she has a shitty podcast, but sometimes I can't find the section right now because I'm ill-prepared. And I'm not a professional podcaster. I'm doing this like in between skating sessions and getting my kid from school. So I'm sorry for that, truly am. I think that's better lighting. I think what irritated me about Mel's approach was that she doesn't really provide a solution. She just comes up with let them think whatever they want to think, as if it has no real life consequences. But to me, the interesting part of anxious emotions and the fear of rejection and the fear of not being accepted in some sort of peer group, that is the more interesting problem here. Like, what do you actually do if you're being disliked, if people are mean, if people talk about you behind your back and say nasty things? What do you actually do? How do you solve that? Just ignore it? That won't make it go away. Oh, just let them, because what will happen? What will happen is a weird dynamic will form and you will be the outcast and it'll not be nice, okay? I mean, I'm a resilient person. I usually do that. I do exactly that. If I meet a bunch of idiots that talk behind my back, I just ignore them and live my life. And I live a better life that way. To that part, it is true. But this won't work for people who are not in a mentally stable place in their life, who maybe have other issues, who have a lot of stress, who maybe have just gone through some real trauma, like losing a loved one or dealing with an illness or something. Not reading a hate comment online. That's not trauma. Just saying. Like the whole idea of being able to delete it and then it's just gone. But you still remember it, so what? I make new memories then. Mean comments, trauma. TikTok is going away now. What are we all gonna do with our misdiagnoses that we found for ourselves on Reddit? back on topic. What I miss about formats like this is actual solutions that do not amount to, oh, just make a mindset shift and you'll be fine. No, you won't be fine if you just make a mindset shift. You need to build a routine, you need to have a social life, you need to have interesting hobbies, you need to have a fulfilling job, you need to have goals in life, or you could also try to make your life more beautiful, achieve the ability to be able to buy the things that you like, and so on. All of that makes a happy life, mostly the factors of not having to fear for bankruptcy and having a social life. I think those are the most important, that you feel safe and secure and that you have a good social life. So who's the target audience here? It's probably not people who are in a happy place where they have everything and they can just, brush it off and be like, you know what? I go home to my loving spouse and my 7 cats and my thriving kids and my big home, and I'm like, what? This person is shit talking me? I don't give a fuck. It's probably the people who already feel down, sad, depressed, anxious about their lives and achievements. And there might just be a reason for that. As in, maybe they haven't achieved much. Maybe they feel like losers because they are. But nobody wants to say, yeah, you're kind of a loser and you kind of missed out on 10 years of your life where you could have learned 5 languages, but you didn't because all you did was watch videos online and listen to Mel Robbins. Sorry, Mel, at this point, I just couldn't let that go. So, I don't know, my message with this is stop wasting your time by listening to people who want to motivate you, to coach you, to sell you something, to make your life better by telling you what mindset shifts to make. Get therapy instead. Read books instead. Make your life fuller instead. Do the hobbies that you always wanted to do. If you feel bad about people saying mean things about you, maybe explore why that makes you feel bad. Maybe talk to a therapist about it, instead of telling yourself to ignore it. And I also want to share an approach that I find very practical and useful, and that is the be a professional, absolutely not a theory. Let's call it approach or method. Whenever I have to deal with idiotic, ignorant, malicious people in my everyday life, I just imagine they're just an incompetent coworker or a client. You can't just lash out on a client, you can't be mean to them, you can't shit talk them, you can't behave like a kindergartner, right? You have to keep it professional. And I don't always achieve that level of adultness, but that's my goal. It's like a mix of being a stoic and laid back and chill. When I'm actually chill, when I'm not chill, I usually don't have the energy for that because it takes energy to suppress the urge to just shout at somebody. I don't know, maybe some people are just naturally good at this. Somebody's being an idiot towards them and they're just like, yeah, okay, I see that you're an idiot. I really don't care about your opinion. And it's like, I remember somebody approaching me in a supermarket one day where my kid just could not stop playing with her scooter. Yeah, we had to take the scooter into the supermarket. There was no place to leave it. And so I told her not to ride it in the supermarket. And she did that for the 10th time or something. And I just said, stop it and let that go or something. I don't remember. And there was some guy who just approached me and was like, you're not doing so great, are you? Like that would get into my head. And I almost let it. But then I was about to open my mouth and be like, you think you can judge me on few seconds of my life? You feel that's appropriate, bitch? Probably would have said the bitch. But then I was just like, and I turned around and walked away. That felt really good. And maybe that is what Mel Robbins is talking about, but she's not really talking about it. She's not giving you any practical solutions. So that's one of my favorite practical solutions now. When somebody wants to lecture you or interfere with your everyday life or tell you that you're a bad parent because you got loud once in 2 weeks or something, or you use swear words which is totally up to you whether you do that or not. We have swearing on TV here in Germany. It's okay, you can do it. It's not like they fine you. It's just a personal preference. It's especially funny if you think of all the stuff that their kids probably hear in school, which is way worse than anything I could say. I have learned stuff from my kid that I didn't even know existed as an insult. So I don't know what these motherfuckers are even worried about. But yeah, my approach now to this is to be as stoic and ignorant as possible. But if it's a person that I care about and it makes me feel some kind of way, then I will explore why that is. And if it's actually my fault, if I did something wrong, if I had said shit for the 25th time on that day and it was really a little bit too much, you know? On this YouTube channel, this is my outlet, okay? This is my place. I say whatever I want here. I swear as much as I want here. I personally like to listen to podcasts with a lot of swearing. I just find it relaxing. If you don't like that, you absolutely don't have to watch it, okay? No hard feelings. Just don't watch my shit. Back on the topic of podcast style and content, though. I find it very sad that so many podcasters just water down theories and actual research, dumbing down scientific findings to provide simple solutions to complicated questions. Complicated questions usually do not have a simple answer. And probably that doesn't click well, I don't know. But I find this constant search for simple solutions very, very annoying. I also see that in podcasts that, in my opinion, have a scientific ring to them, but then they don't really live up to it all the time. Like Huberman podcast. He has some really good in-depth episodes, but then others are just cherry-picked, superficial, super weird papers. Just the selectiveness sometimes is weird. For instance, the episode on stretching and how to implement that into your everyday life. He always comes up with papers and he's like, oh, that's so interesting. That shows an interesting direction or an interesting perspective. Interesting to me is what the conclusion says. Interesting to me are the inferences and the outcome of research. Most interesting to me are meta-analyses. So if I'm an outsider, I want to get a broad overview over some sort of topic or a critical part of a topic. Like if you want to talk about stretching, talk about how people achieve their splits. How do they actually do it? And talk about what worked. Do case studies if you want to. If you don't have broad research, do case studies and discuss them and maybe relate them to some bigger studies. But what I don't like is when you generate that image of doing a meta-analysis, but you're not actually doing a meta-analysis. You're just giving a small window, the one that you find interesting. That's cherry picking. So if you want to see a good video in stretching, Natasha Ocean made one that is really good. A lot of research, tons of papers that you can find. By the way, Huberman's show notes, they fucking suck. Doesn't the guy have editors at this point who can just add in the links to the papers right then and there? No, you have to go to the fucking website and read through a whole bunch of outbound links or inbound links or I don't know, it's just completely annoying. I don't want to go to your website. You say you make it your thing to provide research and knowledge, but then you have to click 5 times to find the research. No, stop doing that, Andrew. And if you claim, whether it's by implication or directly, to do some sort of meta-analysis, then do an actual fucking meta-analysis, please. Don't just sum up the interesting works that you've read. And please, don't use studies with 50 people in them. That's not representative. It'll never be, unless it's like in the context of a meta-analysis with like 20 other studies with a very similar setup that yield the same outcomes. Otherwise, that's just popular science guesswork. Anyway, that's it for me with popular science podcasts. Enjoy them, listen to them, watch them, but do your own reading. Most of these podcasts are not to be considered comprehensive. Difficult scientific questions do not have simple answers. Like the question of how to lose weight. Yeah, it's calories in, calories out, but there's so much more to it. Psychologically, socially, physiologically. The calorie deficit is one thing, but how do you get there? How do you stay in the deficit if you don't have the mental strength to do that, for instance? And so on. Many, many problems in life are multifactorial, very faceted, and complicated. So they need complicated answers, they need real scientific theories to be worked on. And if you actually want to understand something, you have to do a deep dive into that. There are no simple solutions. I mean, maybe in math problems in kindergarten, I don't know. But in life, I don't think so. I think that what people do better, who actually thrive, is that they take all these factors into account and they work on them gradually until they do well in each part of their life. So, final recommendation, actually the episode that I talked about in the beginning, how to achieve any goal you have in 6 simple steps from the Mel Robbins podcast, that is actually a good one. I recommend that. I think it's kind of helpful, even though it's very simple worded. But yeah, listen to that. That is an inspirational episode. And when you're done with that, don't listen to any more podcasts and start planning your life. That's it.